Hey everyone, welcome back to the AZ-104 exam preparation series. A lot of new concepts that you need to understand in order to pass the AZ-104 exam. And as always, my friends, our approach to the AZ-104 exam is very simple. Understand the concepts, go through the Microsoft documentation, and also the USP of the channel is that besides giving you the legit Microsoft documentation, I really try to explain each concept in my own words, give you the examples, use cases, and more analogies so that you can really understand the concept not just from the exam perspective, but also in a way that you can really mature as an Azure administrator and be job ready. So let's not wait further and head on to the very first question for today. Starting the episode with a very interesting question number 216, part 38. The question is saying that you plan to deploy an Azure container instance by using the following Azure Resource Manager template. So here is the template given, Azure ARM template, and then it says use the drop-down menus to select the answer choice that completes each statement based on the information presented in the template. So here is the template given, the ARM template, as I just told. Then we have these two boxes or two tables. So in the real exam, my friends, it will be actually the drop-down menus, but here due to the presentation limitations, I have created these table kind of. So let's understand the question. Let's understand first of all this ARM template. So here you can see this ARM template. It has a lot of information, but let me tell you what are the important section of this ARM template. So first of all, you understand that this is a container instance, as we can see here, containers. So this is the container ARM template. Of course, the name of the container, the web prod is given. We have properties. What is the container image? But more importantly, you have to see this ports here. So we have TCP protocol, then the port given is 80. And then you can also see that we have environmental variables, but coming down in the ARM template, we can see this important point here that says restart policy as on failure. Very important point, keep in mind. And then the next section, the very important section of this ARM template is this OS type, which is given as Windows. I will tell you what is the relevance of or what is the importance of this OS type. So coming to the first drop down menu, here it says internet users, and the options given are can connect to the container from any device. Option B, cannot connect to the container, and option C, can only connect to the containers from devices that run on Windows. So you understand that we are talking about the OS type given in the ARM template, that is Windows. And yes, very understandably, this is the correct answer, that we can only connect to the containers from the devices that run on Windows. Is that what you thought? No, that is wrong. The correct answer for this option or this drop-down menu is this first one, that we can connect to the container from any device. And that's how, my friends, Microsoft will really play with your mind in the real exams. So here you can see OS type given as Windows. Now many people will actually think or relate that yes, this is Windows, so we might be able to only connect with the devices that are running on Windows, but that is incorrect. And why this is so? Because the OS type or the operating system type defines the node of the operating system where the containers are deployed. So in case you're using the Linux container, then the operating system or the OS type will be Linux. So please understand that the operating system type mentioned in this ARM template is for the container group definition, where it can be actually Windows or Linux, it doesn't matter. Now coming to the second drop down menu, the question is asking that if the Internet Information Service or IAS in the container fails, then what will happen? Now here you need to understand that whenever you create a container group in the Microsoft Azure container instance, you can specify one of the three policies or the restart policy settings. So first of all, we have always, and this is the part of the ARM template that I'm referring to. So the restart policy in our ARM template is given on failure, but there are three options. So starting with the first one, that is always. So the containers in the container group are always restarted whenever we have set the restart policy to the always. And also remember that this is the default setting that is applied in case you have not selected any restart policy. And the second option could be never. So the restart policy can be set to never. And when this happens or when this choice is made, then the containers in the container group are never restarted. And lastly, we have the on failure, which is also given in this ARM template or in the question. So whenever we set the on failure as a restart policy, then what happens is that the containers in the container groups are restarted only when the process executed in the container fails And what does this fail means? Well, actually it could be, for example, terminates with a non-zero exit code. So something like that. And please remember that the containers are run at least once. And a really good way to start deploying a container instance in Microsoft Azure using the ARM template, that is what we were discussing in the question as well, is this documentation given here. And in this documentation, you can also understand about the ARM templates. So basically ARM templates are JavaScript object notation. So you can read about them in this documentation and how to deploy them on Microsoft Azure, prerequisite and everything around the same. So please read out the documentation and understand what were the key parameters that I pointed out in this ARM template. But for now, let me give you the correct answer for this box here. Actually, I almost missed that. So the correct answer for the same is first one, that the container will restart automatically. Now coming to a very interesting question about the apps and the deployment slots. So let's read the question. Question number 217 that says that you have an Azure web app named App1. So this is our web app. Now the App1 has the deployment slots as shown in the following table. So this is the table given here. Now please understand that this web app 1 test, which is this one here, which is on the staging part, you tested several changes to the app 1. So this is what we do always. We do some changes, we test it on the staging environment, and then you back up the app 1. What happens is when you swap the web app 1 test for the web app 1 prod, so what is happening here? We are actually deploying our changes from the test environment or the staging environment to the production environment. And then while doing so, we discovered that the app 1 is experiencing some performance issues and you need to revert to the previous versions of the app 1 as quickly as possible. What should you do? So here you can see that we have app 1 prod, which is of course a production environment. And then we have this web app 1 test, which is the staging environment, or it can be testing environment as well. Now let's check out what are the options given in the question in case we want to revert to the previous version. So the first option A is redeploy app 1. Option B, swap the slots. Option C, clone app 1. Option D, restore the backup of app 1. Very important concept, my friends, swapping the slot, and that is the correct answer for this question as well. Option B, swap the slots. So let me tell you more about the swapping the slots. So when you swap deployment slots, Azure swaps the virtual IP addresses of the source and the destination slots. So please understand this. What we are doing is we are swapping the slots. We are moving from test to production or stage to production. But under the hood, what's happening is that the Azure just swaps the virtual IP addresses of source and the destination. Basically, it makes staging or testing as production, and then production, it moves as staging or test. And why this is so? Because this is probably the best way to move your changes from test to production without any interruptions to the business users. And here, my friends, you can read all about how to set up the staging environment in Microsoft Azure App Service. The important section here is this one here, how to swap the slots. So all the other sections, of course, you can read them, but we can focus here, how to swap the slots. Here you can see that how Microsoft or Azure under the hood really plays when you are swapping the slot, or let me say, when you actually deploy from staging to production environment. Moving on with the next question, question number 218, that says that you have 4 Azure virtual machines as shown in the following table, and you have a recovery service vault that protects virtual machine 1 and virtual machine 2. Now going forward, you also want to protect the virtual machine 3 and 4 using the same or maybe different recovery service vault. What should you do first? So here we can see we have 4 virtual machine 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we have Azure regions. Once again, regions are very important. So we have West Europe once again, East Europe and East Europe. Now the options given are option A, create a new backup policy. Option B, create a new recovery services vault. Option B, create a storage account. And lastly, configure the extensions for virtual machine 3 and virtual machine 4. So let me tell you what's the correct answer, and that is option B, create a new recovery service vault. Here on this page, of course, you can read all about the Azure recovery services, but let me explain or let me summarize this in my own words. So first of all, Azure Recovery Services vaults are the storage entities in the Microsoft Azure designed to house the backup data or maybe configuration information for various services such as virtual machines, as we talked in the question as well. Then we have workloads, servers or workstations. And here let me lay out some of the key points related to the Azure Recovery Service vaults. So Azure Recovery Services vaults, they really store the backups and the recovery points, making it easy to organize and manage and backup data with minimal overload. Then we have encryption. So by default, the data is in encrypted form using the platform managed keys, but you can actually also use your own encryption keys for added control or enhanced security. And then, my friends, we have integration. So they actually support various Azure services such as IaaS, which is like virtual machines. Then we can also have SQL servers in virtual machines. And not only that, we can also have system centers or DPM, Windows servers. So please go through the documentation that I just showcased. Links are given in the description box. Azure Recovery Service. Moving on with the next question, question number 219, that says that you have an Azure subscription that contains the resource as shown in the following table. Now you need to manage the outbound traffic from the VNet 1 by using the firewall. What should you do first? So here you can see that we have app 1, which is the app service, and the description given is that virtual network integration enabled for the VNet 1. Then we have ASP1, which is basically the app service plan with the standard SKU. We also have VNet 1 virtual network, of course. Description, nothing is given in the question. Then we have firewall, of course, Azure Firewall, and this firewall is connected to this VNet 1 or virtual network 1. Now further ahead, we are given with some options also. So option A is create a virtual network watcher. Option B, create a route table. Option C, upgrade ASP1, which is this app service plan, to premium SKU. And lastly, option D, configure hybrid connection manager. So let me first show you the correct answer, and that is create a route table. Now let me explain this further, my friends. Important concept. So whenever you are creating a virtual network, Azure actually automatically creates a default route table for each of its subnets and adds the system routes to the table. Now you may be wondering, or you may ask, that if the route table is actually getting created automatically, why should I create one? So let me explain this as well. So this is because that you create a user defined route table that actually routes all the traffic to the firewall and then associate it with the app service subnet in the integrated virtual network. Also, my friends, please pay a closer attention to the question. Here we can see that there is a mention of this firewall also, but let me tell you, the question is not saying anything whether the firewall is to like function as a outbound firewall only. The question is explicitly telling you or saying you that you need to do this to manage the outbound traffic for the VNet 1 by using firewall 1. So a really good documentation to understand how to control the outbound traffic with the Azure firewall. All the concepts, all the prerequisite, how to create the required firewall subnet. Then you can also understand how to deploy the firewall and get its IP, route all traffic to the firewall, configure firewall policies, and also verify the outbound traffic. And with that, let's move on to the next question, question number 220, that says that you have a general purpose version 1 Azure storage account named storage 1 that actually uses the locally redundant storage or LRS. Now you need to ensure that the data to storage account is protected if the zone fails. And the solution must minimize the cost and the administrative effort. What should you do? First, your options are create a new storage account. Option B, configure object replication rules. Option C, upgrade to the general purpose version 2. And option D, modify the replication setting to storage 1. And friends, one thing is for sure, if you have been watching our video, if you have been following this series, you must be able to answer this question. The correct answer is option C, upgrade the account to the general purpose version 2. But just to assist you, I have given the link of this documentation where you can understand all about the Azure storage redundancy, what are the options, LRS, GRS, ZRS, and whatnot. So please go through this documentation, very good documentation, and let me know if you really understand why we have picked this option C as the correct answer. And yes, my friends, if Azure Storage is one concept that really gives you sleepless night, then please do watch the next episode where I'm going to bring the latest questions on Azure Storage and the related concepts. So please do subscribe to the channel for the timely notifications. Do like the video, share the video with your family and your friends. And not to mention, please do not miss to watch the previous and the next episodes of this series, AZ-104 Exam Preparation Series, so that you are covering the entire AZ-104 syllabus.